fine. There's a word thing.
Yeah.
They have a lot.
Ready?
Ready.
First of all, I got number 1 and number 19, which are basically the same
Okay.
thing, except for time frames.
Give me number one,
I just
so
like to
that,
throw that
because
out.
some people are gonna write it out.
All right. So it's acute stress disorder occurs after a traumatic event. It's the development of like anxiety, disassociation, intrusive thoughts. Pretty similar to PTSD, except for it only lasts up to 6 months.
30 days.
Oh, really? I think that stupid internet. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure that my answer's 30 days.
All right, 30 days, y'all.
And after 30 days, it's considered PTSD. It goes into, so everybody has a response to trauma, a traumatic event, but if it prolongs longer than 30 days, that we call that response PTSD.
And yeah, I got number 19 also, which was
Okay.
PTSD. So
Espera.
thanks.
What number, what page did you find it?
I have the internet.
I have the internet.
I got mine. It's a given.
It was Google.
That is in his PowerPoint in the very first one.
First one?
It's in the.
Okay.
Is Cora gonna do 1 and 19 right now, or are we gonna go back?
No,
to
we're
one?
gonna go around.
Yeah, I just want to throw it out there.
Okay, so yeah, that. It's the part of the brain that experiences the emotions. What?
Okay.
It's part of the brain of what?
Remember, this was one of the questions, and it filled it in, and it said, the answer was, the amygdala acts like a smoke detector to identify potential threats and sounds an alarm to the body, okay? So when you see smoke detector, then you know that it's amygdala.
Burnout.
I'm just gonna do that.
Me.
Look, show your picture.
Ruin one's health or become completely exhausted through overwork.
Okay, I like the word exhaust, so look for that word. It's when the counselor is exhausted, okay? And it also involves an emotionally charged environment. So those are key words that you'll find in the exam that'll lead to burnout.
Emotionally in charge.
Environment.
Like high stress.
Emotionally charged environment.
So mine is Cage, and it's a substance abuse screening tool. You ask your parents.
Are your clients?
If there's a need. Okay, ask your patients 4 questions and then use scoring method, describe it. So the questions are, have you ever felt you should cut down on your drinking, which is the C, cut. Have people annoyed you by criticizing your drinking? Annoyed represents A. Have you ever felt bad or guilty about your drinking? Guilty represents the G. And have you ever had a drink first thing in the morning to steady your nerves or to get rid of a hangover, which is called an eye opener, which represents C.
Okay, good.
What's the keywords you want us to look for on that?
Cut back, annoyed, guilt, and eye opener.
What was the eye opener question? Can you repeat it for me, please?
Sure. It is, have you ever had a drink first thing in the morning to steady your nerves or to get rid of a hangover?
Okay.
That's called an eye opener.
What was the
Taking a
A?
shot before you play.
Annoyed. Hey, don't help her, let her stand alone, okay? You're not her therapist.
This is trauma.
This is trauma.
That's okay, I'll deal with it.
See?
Okay, so I have CBT, and I put our thoughts cause our feelings and behaviors, and we can change the way we think or feel in our situation. For our ABC, we just went over that. So activating event is A, beliefs, thoughts, attitudes is B, and C is consequences, feelings, emotions.
Okay, so you have to know the ABCs, and you have seen the question before,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
C.
Okay, so there, ABC.
Yes.
Okay, and it's the most common, therapy used in substance abuse and in mental health. It's the most common therapy or common approach used in substance abuse and mental health. Those are the keys. You got that?
Got it.
6, compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is when caregivers have such deep empathy they develop symptoms of trauma similar to the patient.
Okay,
What's the keywords?
go ahead, say it again.
Compassion fatigue is when caregivers have such deep empathy they develop symptoms of trauma similar to the patient.
Okay,
Probably.
I would say like the fact that they're developing the symptoms would be like a keyword.
that's good. You'll get it. Haley, you're up.
Oh, I got
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I jumped, I
Okay.
didn't see, I went right through you.
Yeah, no worries, I got
Sorry.
you. I'll show
Alright,
you
so
one
this
then.
is referring
You
to
have-
the cerebral cortex, it's the outermost layer of the brain. It's responsible for higher thought processes, including speech and decision making.
Higher thought processes, okay? Again, you're gonna pick you'll see these definitions or these, I don't know how they describe them, these descriptions, and then you'll see a list of words that you just bring down.
Higher thought process.
Yeah.
And what part of the brain is it?
It's the outer brain that,
The outermost part.
the outer part of the brain. Okay,
Number 8, countertransference. Is the effect of another trauma may have on the helper. Page 542.
okay, so it's the emotional response of the helper to the client, okay? So we really love our clients. Say what? That response is quiet. You might.
Do we need to know the 4 manifestations of countertransference that we learned
Before?
today?
No,
No, okay.
but I think, yeah, no, you don't know the 4 that we have, but they may come up. It's not that specific, okay?
Okay, sounds good. And I put in my notes, erotic countertransference, don't sleep with clients. Do we just need to leave that so we know that, or can we take it out?
You should probably know that.
I mean, yeah.
I think that might be important.
The basic rule. I'm taking it out.
For the test, no, for life, yes.
For life, yeah.
Yes, for life. Okay,
Oh yeah, crisis. I put it's an extremely dangerous or difficult situation. And then, because that's just what a
but,
crisis.
okay, so,
Or how to help, like how to help,
what's the crisis?
like crisis management.
We talked about this,
like
remember we
overload?
talked about when you were 14 and he dumped you?
Stress overload.
And how now, now you're in the field and you dump them all the time?
Oh, a time of intense
So-
difficulty.
So it overwhelms your abilities. It has to, with your tools you have,
Overwhelming.
this perception that the experience is intolerable.
Is intolerable
It
a
exceeds
keyword?
the person's current resources and coping ability. Okay? So a crisis, when you were 14, he dumped you. Now you're 20-something, and it's not a crisis anymore when he dumps you or you dump him. Because you have different resources, you have more skills, you have more abilities.
You said it exceeds a person's.
Ay, Dios mío.
Current resources and coping.
The perception or experience of an event or situation as an intolerable difficulty that exceeds the person's current resources and coping abilities. That's the exact answer. If you miss it,
Don't get it wrong.
you know what, sometimes I read the question and the answer and the students miss the damn thing anyway. Don't tell me how they do that.
I do it.
Don't tell me. I don't think you can explain that one.
Oh my god.
Okay,
Domestic violence is homicide, rape, sexual assault, robbery, aggravated and simple assault against an intimate partner, and that includes psychological violence,
that Jeff put down, name calling, controlling behavior, and then also with DV, there's DV by proxy, and that's using the couple's children to affect the victim.
Okay, so the question you had some time ago was a true and false question. It was stated something like this, is like, domestic violence amongst heterosexuals compared to homosexual couples is the same, yes or no? No, okay? And I think that is the question, and that question is gonna be in that note. I think it's gonna be in the bunch. I have to get rid of some questions, I have so many of them.
Because it's more for the homosexual clients, right?
It's more for the gay, lesbian, homosexual clients than it is for the general population. It is, the incidence higher, domestic violence is higher for that group
Okay.
than the general population,
Okay.
than the straight, I guess.
Oh, okay, I get it. I'm on it now, I get it.
Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna delete all this extra stuff, cause
Thank you, baby.
you don't know what it is.
God damn it.
okay.
Sorry, I was kind of like
You're wanting less things after review over for the test.
Okay, where are we?
Hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus,
It's me, give me 1 second, I'm going.
go, girl, go, girl.
I'm going.
Go, you go, girl, you go.
Hypothalamus plays a crucial role in many important functions, including releasing hormones, regulating body temperature.
Hormones. Isn't it like memory or something?
Okay, the key word here is it's the emotional brain.
Okay.
Wherever you see emotional brain, just put that letter down by the hypothalamus.
Thanks.
Bless you. Salud.
Imaginal exposure. Imagining the trauma triggers an exposure.
Keyword.
The
survey says.
Like imagine.
Isn't it like visualizing?
Visualizing, yeah.
Imagining, visualizing.
We want you to visualizing,
Triggers.
presenting in front of the class, visualizing the, you know, the trauma, the event or whatever.
Okay, vivo exposure.
Virtual,
In person.
Huh?
Yeah.
in vivo
Isn't it in
exposure,
vivo in person?
Yeah.
yes.
What's just saying, what you say in person
Yeah, in person.
for the keyword?
You love your keywords.
Yeah, in person.
Is there
Okay.
anything else you wanna add?
That's good, you should get that one.
If you're like there in person, if you're afraid of heights.
If I read the answer, you'll probably miss it, so we won't. You're one of them.
Go ahead and read it. Just agree, it's fear factor.
Medication half-life.
It's okay, I'm just on vacation.
Medication half-life,
The time it takes for the medication to be reduced by half, or how long it takes for half of the dose of medication to be metabolized or eliminated from the bloodstream.
and how many half-lives does medication have? You don't know.
I couldn't even find it.
You're right, 5. Medications have 5 half-lives, okay? So when you have 100, I think the example was 100 milligrams, right?
Yep.
I had to change it. So half of that would,
Stop trying to make it more difficult. Give us
okay.
Okay, so I have.
They said social work didn't have
5
math.
lives, yeah, 5
I
half,
got it right, so why?
5 half-lives.
You're smart. He's just picking
You're
on you for
smart.
God knows why.
What's the example?
Ignore him. He's trying to
Picking
make
on
you
me
look
and
like
the
a
question
whole
he had
thing
actually
today.
was a
You know,
math problem and you had to
When
come up
you're
with
in the joint,
Oh God.
the person that you have the hardest problem with is the people that are equal to you, okay? So you, don't think you're equal to me, damn it. It's a mistake I made.
Don't forget I'm recording this.
What's that?
Don't forget I'm recording this.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Oh no, I'm in trouble now.
Feminist,
these memories.
Normalizing. First part of trauma treatment, allowing a person to own/normalize their own experience.
Okay.
What's the keyword? Normalize.
Normalize.
To make normal.
What is it? What is normalize? What did she just say?
What did you just say, Sarah?
To own your own experience.
Own or
To own your own
normalize their own experience.
Their response
Or
to
response,
trauma.
sorry,
Okay, so however you respond, that's the normal way to respond, okay?
What?
So you're saying it's okay to respond the way you do when there's trauma. There's not one way that you know, did you deal with trauma? All of us deal, and the client, I told you about the situation where somebody lost their parent and they couldn't cry and they thought that they were going crazy because I can't cry, I'm supposed to cry, my parent's dead right there. So wait a minute, that's okay. You don't have to cry. That's normal. You know, why are you killing yourself about not crying? It's okay not to cry. So you give them permission to have their response versus I must really be going crazy, I can't cry.
Can we go back to the medication half-life, just to make sure that we all have it clear? Okay, so the first day we start with. Right, we start with 100.
This we're normalizing. We all are having this problem. We are, no, we're not all.
So it goes like from
the
100
second
to
day,
50,
250, then
and then
25, and then
12, 12 and a half.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Yes, and then 6.
Six.
Okay, good. I'm glad that everybody is understanding this problem.
5 times.
Oh,
I told us social work didn't
Five
math.
times
That's
three.
messed up.
25 would be 12.
Personal.
And
And
6.5.
12.5, 600.
Need some speed.
You need your IOD.
Okay.
All right.
There you go.
Jesus Christ.
You know, religion you need, I guess.
Jesus.
Parallel treatment model is a long definition, but I got an example. It's on page 213. Disorders are treated concurrently, but in separate treatment systems or by separate clinicians, generally without much coordination between the two treatments. So basically, if there's a client who has mental illness but also has a substance abuse, and their issues are addressed at the same time, that means the two, and they have different specialists, they will have probably not a common level of communicating between each other for those treatments.
That's common, is we see where you go to drug and alcohol program, and then you go to mental health here.
Yeah.
What's the key word to all that?
Parallel.
Yeah, but concurrent,
Just think
concurrent but separate.
Parallel is separate.
Parallel, I said more separate.
It's
but
concurrent,
parallel,
is it concurrent but separate?
Yeah.
Concurrent is separate, yeah.
Okay.
And then the other one is, oh, we have another one, we'll get it, it's
Yeah.
integrated, I think, integrated, yeah. Okay.
Or that's. Oh, don't count integrated right now.
Okay. Alright, then the next one is play therapy, which is, it's a therapy model that's usually used with cognition levels that are younger. And there's a lot of different ways you can use it, but it's basically using play to express yourself and the world that the client's living in.
Okay. And the child, or the people that don't have the cognitive ability, the children, they can't do talk therapy, but they can do play therapy. That's their medium, that's their way of expressing themselves.
So the cognitive, don't have the cognitive ability to express
So,
themselves?
yeah, that's why it's we use it mostly with children. But you had this experiential thing that the group did today. It was an experiential approach, but it was also a kind of a play therapy.
Yeah.
You know, the outline where she showed the video of outlining the individual. You know, I've seen that done with the outlined individual, and then you would, on your body, you would say where your pain is and different things. So there's different ways of doing it. Yes.
So the answer would sound like,
I think this question, and I don't remember when we talked about repetitive play,
okay,
is where the child is traumatized and they try to process it through play,
okay,
and it's repetitive. And in Gil's video, she talks about how you manage repetitive play. You just stop it and then you take the child into try this different, or what would you try different? Okay, but we talked about repetitive play. And that's a child he can't process it intellectually, but the child's trying to process it through his play. But it was repetitive play.
Okay, postmodern is no.
Oh, you better get this right.
Well, you said that we construct our own reality through the use of language.
Exactly. The key word is language. We construct our own reality and we construct it through the use of language. It's postmodern, it's narrative, it's constructionism. Today, the last two slides were on constructionism of how we respond to trauma. PTSD.
Oh, sorry. So basically the same thing as number one, but it occurs for longer than 30 days.
And
So,
what are the four?
dissociation, anxiety, intrusive thoughts, and avoidance.
Okay, you're gonna have to,
Yeah.
you know, just slow that down a little bit for me.
Sorry, dissociation.
Yep.
Anxiety. He didn't say that was right though, so.
Okay, well,
Intrusive thoughts and avoidance of triggers or reminders.
thank you.
Yeah.
I do
Okay,
appreciate that.
Is that right?
For a period of over 30 days.
that's close enough.
Yeah.
After
No,
30 days.
more than
After
30
days.
days.
More than.
Over, she said, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you're recording.
What did you say, over 30 days?
Yes.
Yes.
What was number 3?
We're past that.
Intrusive thoughts?
Oh, I thought you
We'll
meant
go
the
back
big
after, because then all you guys are gonna throw me off.
What?
I said we'll go back after.
I think she meant like the
Oh, I know.
intrusive things. Number 3. All right. Anxiety, intrusive thoughts, disassociation, and avoidance of the triggers.
Oh, just, okay, thank you.
Process addiction.
Process addiction.
Seeks a wide variety of behavioral, addiction, or compulsive behaviors.
Like shopping. Shopping's one.
Gambling?
Gambling's another one.
Video games.
Addicted to
Exercise.
the process. Okay, so you're addicted to the processes.
Okay. Exercise. There's a lot of different process addictions we have.
So what, shoplifting?
And I think
Gambling.
the question stated like, which is not a process addiction, and I think the answer was shooting up heroin.
Because that's,
You're
getting.
That's a different addiction,
Yeah.
it's not a process addiction. If that was the question on your quiz.
Keep going, talk me out. I want this.
Ms. Romero, did you get
Okay,
it?
give me
Yes.
the say, come on, keep going.
Number 21, I put. Practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress.
Okay.
That's kind of like a long.
You haven't been doing that if you're burned out.
No, there's no time.
Professor, you
There's no time for self-care.
No.
You know that has to be your imperative.
What were the
Sorry,
key
what's
words?
the key word?
Take care of yourself.
Care for oneself, basically.
Care for yourself.
Care for oneself.
Motto of the year.
Yeah, motto of the year.
What's the key word?
Sequential treatment model. Providers tackle the more serious disorder first, and then after that has been brought under control. This is from the slide, by the way. Then address the other disorder. I don't know what slide it's from. It's from week 4.
Also on page
Slide number
213.
213.
13.
So this is non-concurrent?
No.
Sequence, okay.
Sequential, like,
So-
sequence.
Right, right,
So
right.
we,
Yeah.
we see this a lot
Severities
when,
of-
when she's coming in and she's psychotic, but she's drunk.
Mhm.
Well, you gotta go take care of that drinking issue, and then we'll talk about your psychosis.
Sober up, girl.
Sober up, there you go. We do that a lot, in a lot of places. We require you to be sober for a certain number of days or weeks before you can come into our program.
I missed it. What's the key word, Sarah?
Serious disorder first, non-concurrent.
Okay.
What's so funny?
No,
their face. You could just see certain people are just like. Well, I'm trying to look out
for everybody, cause
You're doing
somebody
great.
will miss it, cause they're talking.
Seriously.
bigger
I
than
appreciate
the word.
that.
Okay, let's roll.
Okay, so
I'll send you a
Lucian
video too.
focused
No, these
reads
keywords
there.
are
Scoot chair.
They're super helpful.
It's goal-directed approach to solve human problems, and the solutions are something that the client can carry out by making changes.
Okay, there, I don't remember the question on solution focused therapy, but what do we know about it?
I think
What do
the
we
question-
focus on?
Strengths.
It's strength-based,
of the client.
it's strength-based, what else?
What the client can change about themselves, so you don't focus on the environment, you focus on.
Not that they're changing, they're focusing on what?
Like exceptions.
The exception. When is the problem not there? Okay? So, you know, you have these issues, but sometimes the problem's not there. Let's look at what's going on when the problem's not there. And then we use scaling on this also. From 1 to 10, where is the problem today? Then the strength base is, last week your problem was at 7, today it's at 6. You know, you slid down a little bit. So to be strength based, we say, last week you was at 7, today's at 6. You slid a little bit. Strength based, the question would be, why isn't it 5? How did you stop it from sliding down? What did you do? So we're strength based. Okay.
Stress.
Stress.
Response rate, like how the body responds to a traumatic event. I don't know what you're looking for.
That's fine. Your stress is your body's reaction to challenges or demands.
You gotta do that.
Alright, transference, feelings, desires, and expectations of one person are redirected to a other person such as a therapist.
Okay, it's the client's feelings, emotions towards the worker.
Number 26 is triggers. I found it on page 448.
448?
Usually external environmental sensory data such as sight, smell, sounds, tastes, or touch that stimulate an internal response. An increased negative symptom is uncomfortable or disturbing for the individual. Inability to control the reaction.
Okay. It's a conditioned response that happens automatically. So it triggers the whole emotions or feelings around the trauma.
Sorry, I'm just making, sorry, I'll get in there. Okay, vicarious trauma, impact of another's trauma on the helper. So the transformation that occurs within the trauma worker as a result of empathetic engagement with the client's trauma experiences. Engagement includes like listening to the graphic descriptions of the events, bearing witness to people's cruelty to one another, kind of witnessing and participating in traumatic reenactments.
Okay. The answer goes right along that, what you're saying.
Virtual reality exposure is using goggles or a virtual room to help expose a client to trauma or triggers and help them process it in a safe environment.
Okay. So all of you should get at least a 90. That's all. Okay, any questions?